So since I've been slightly ill recently, I haven't been able to go to MMA for the past year or so, and honestly, it's driving me slightly insane, because kicking my wife in the liver over and over again just isn't quite as competitive. So I thought I'd go to YouTube to attempt to better my martial skill, and I thought I'd bring you all along for the ride. Now, I don't really have a problem with this next clip, but for something that's supposed to be some mystical hidden technique, well, it's not exactly very creative, but you'll see. Just whack the cunt in the solar plex. I mean, it's basically foolproof. Just find somebody that's preferably doesn't know you're there, and whack him as hard as you can right in the solar plexus. I mean, this guy didn't do it as hard as he could, but I would recommend just fucking go for it. Next time you're visiting your grandma, try it out. Now, this next guy uses some Asian-sounding words, so you know he is legit.
Really good effect. The next point we're going to look at that Master Yu taught is called a side choke.
Is it just me, or did it sound like he just forgot the second half of that word?
Side chow is on the neck. Master Yu described it as when you strike, it causes the blood pressure to drop. Master Yu particularly highlighted the fact that striking in different methods will cause different effects. By causing the blood pressure to drop, it can cause people to faint. He also described the fact that when you strike, because you have the artery behind and the vein, you can have a build-up of residue, plaque if you like, inside the artery. And by striking, you don't know how healthy that person is. You may break off a piece of that build-up, if you like, over the years that they've accumulated, and it causes all sorts of different problems, you know, causes a brain hemorrhage, all sorts of different issues, or a stroke.
Now, I'm not going to say this is impossible. I mean, you can get a carotid dissection from sneezing, but from all the kickboxing bouts where people get kicked in the fucking neck, I've never heard of this happening. But he does say that it's more likely if somebody has, you know, build up in their arteries from, I don't know, eating really badly. So, find your nearest fat cunt, hit him really hard in the neck, see if he dies.
So again, use this one with care. I do stress that, and Master Yu specifically said that. So from here, the point is level with the neck here. Windpipe and across.
He's definitely getting some kind of sexual release out of this.
In the side of the muscle here. It can be used, Master Yu described as using it as a sword fingers in, which penetrates deep into the tissue. So from here, the sword fingers will generally hit and twist. You can use it sometimes just as a prod, yeah, striking back, or you can use it as a twist and drill into the target. Sometimes if people resist, just pushing in, they can take it. But as soon as you start to twist, it stretches everything. It makes it much more uncomfortable.
So far, well, pretty standard for this kind of video. I mean, it'd be pretty hard to hit someone there, unless they're standing completely still, and what, it might hurt them a bit, might hurt your fingers, might move them backwards a bit. You know, not very impressive, but he does continue.
My own personal preference for this is using it with my thumb. I use the chest as a reference. So I'm here, I could be in a grapple, I could have got in close, they might have their hands up, check down, come in close, and I use the chest as a reference here and drive up into the target. If you notice, a lot of times I'll tread the foot as well just to give myself extra control over the person. That's not compulsory, but I tend to do that. So from here, yep, into here. I can use it as if the hands are up, yeah, so here, don't really bother, now see the attacker's got the hands up, I'm here, check, into the targets, and...
Now, you probably thought this video was just going to be me making incredibly unfunny jokes, but I'm actually going to give my genuine opinion on this. Now, my problem with this is that it relies on the other person doing absolutely nothing with his hands, or anything really, once he slaps his hands down. The other guy just gives up on life and starts dreaming about beating people up at the pub. Now, slapping the hands could work, See every southpaw in early MMA slapping down their opponent's lead hand so they can land a straight. But doing it with both, especially that close, is risky if you're doing it that quick and immediately moving to something else. It could end in you getting punched in the face, not to mention if the person just takes a step backwards. But let's say you do it quick enough to get in close, grab the back of their neck, and do the pointy fingers stabby thing. You don't have that much control of the other person. Their hands are free and their hips are free. Unless your jabby fingers of death render them completely useless, they're free to counter-wrestle. And, well, this is basically a single collar tie with you trying to molest their jugular, which is fine if you're good at a single collar tie. But how are you going to get good at it? A lot of martial arts, where they train this kind of thing, don't do active sparring where they fight for the position. The technique is just too deadly, so they never practice it against any resistance. You aren't going to find many people that are going to let you practice stabbing them in the neck unless you do it gently. If you try this, two things are probably going to happen. One, the person swats away your pointy fingers of death and starts either wrestling with you or swinging wildly while you try to hold the collar tie. And while you've got the advantageous position, if you're learning stuff for the street, you want to maximize safety by having as much control as possible, and having the person swing wildly isn't very safe. That's if they've got no or little training but are determined. God forbid you do this to a knackmoy or a wrestler, who are going to dump you on your head or knee you into the oblivion, because they actually spar from these positions. The wrestler will have trained breaking the collar tie against skillful people who are determined to hold it, and the Muay Thai guy will have practiced kneeing people to death. Maybe, if he's nice, he'll sweep you. Or, they're not determined, and not only have zero training, but are an absolute melt. They panic horribly, and you can do whatever you want to them, in which case, sure, it'll probably work. But when a new person comes into the gym, I can jump on their foot with my ass and start going for heel hooks, and I usually have zero trouble. That doesn't mean it's good technique. Now, not all techniques are equal, and I think this is a pretty bad one, but there are counters to every technique. What matters is that you drill and spar techniques so you get used to dealing with the counters. When your technique involves something like jamming your fingers into someone's neck, you're not going to be able to practice it effectively, and it's not going to work on someone who even knows what they're doing or really hates you. It's better to practice something that, while you don't think it's going to kill someone or render them completely unconscious, you can actually practice it against someone who's resisting, and resisting hard with skill. And that something's that's going to get to a controlling position, such as double underhooks or inside control on their arms, which is what a lot of bouncers practice, which is like when like a boxing clinch you'll see in boxing, where the one boxer has his hands over near the other person's armpit, so they can't really swing effectively. And the benefit of something like that, like getting in close to clinching range and controlling your opponent, it's not escalating the situation. It's just you, I don't know, giving them a hug. Probably they'll think that you're doing. They're not likely to get even madder. Whereas you start trying to jam your fingers into their neck, you're going to piss them off. You might turn a situation that might be able to be resolved without much conflict into a fight. Which, you know, if you're looking for a fight, sure, go ahead. Start jamming random people. Go to your grandma, jam your fingers in her neck and say, "Let's fight, Granny." Or don't be a dickhead.
Another useful one that I quite like as well is if they punch, coming in, straight punch, check it into here, you reach around, you hit past some of these points that we talked about on the back of the head, reach around, get the fingers on this point here, I don't know if you can see from here, we do it slow, get the fingers on the point, pull back and back toward me, and that causes the person to kick out. Very easy, very effective again.
Very easy, very effective. Even against someone with horrific punching form, if they're trying their best, that's going to be incredibly difficult to do. Like, the deflecting the punch and getting behind someone basically only happens in Steven Seagal movies, or Devin Clark in the UFC when he fought Jan Blachowicz. That kind of did actually happen, and he got a rear naked choke. The standard of striking in the UFC is still pretty abysmal, but you know, that's a topic for another day. And I'm not really. I can criticize people like this, but actual people, you know, they may have horrific striking form compared to good kickboxers, but they could kick the shit out of me. Now, let's have a look at another one of his videos, a quick look.
Now what we're going to do is we're going to put it into a context of combat. Now one way, if Dave was grabbing onto here, if Dave was pushing me back, okay, here, where his head faces is where his power is going to go, alright? So if Dave's pushing me back here, then whilst he's facing me, obviously he can headbutt me and do all sorts of stuff, but his strength is forward, his strength is pushing forward, and he can drive me back quite easily, alright? So what I need to do is, for me, using stomach 4, is turn the head. Now, once his head's turned, I can control the head movements, and we'll look at other points as well afterwards in relation to this. But from here, so Dave's forward. So what I'm going to do is, rather than press the point, this time I'm just going to rap on it like I'd be rapping on a door, like I'm knocking on a door. I'm just going to use the first knuckle or the middle knuckle. So just tap down. And as you tap down, be careful with your training partner, because you can chip the jaw quite easily with this. I can break it. So for training partner, for training purposes, get them to keep the teeth closed. Right? If the teeth are open, it's going to basically cause your training partner some problems. So from here, onto here, I'm going to rap down with that knuckle onto stomach 4. As I tap down, okay, I turn the head. Now if Dave tries to drive me back, see what he's doing himself. As he tries to drive me back, he can't, because the more I just move my hand away so you can see. Dave tries to push back, he's driving his own head back. Okay, he's putting a neck crank on himself. Now obviously it's a dynamic situation, things are going to change, but I would finish the situation, I would finish the fight at this point, so I'm going in for a finishing strike. But this is just showing you how, by controlling the cervical spine through the stomach 4, it's turning the head, it's got that neck crank, and basically he can't drive me back.
Cervical? Cervix? The only cervix I know is a cervix I pound, right, babe?
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, this is basically just woo. Like, he's just saying things. What he's basically saying is, push your knuckle on a point in the guy's face that if you try it on yourself where he's pushing, it does hurt quite a bit. And this is how this stuff is all worked out. People have sat around poking themselves, not in the penis for once, and they thought, oh, it kind of hurts here. And if you're training with someone, you know, just lightly, just trying stuff out, they are going to turn their head if you push it there. And it evolves into this, which you're saying you're gonna chip his fucking, you're gonna chip his jawbone by wrapping your hand lightly on his jaw. If it were that easy to cause that much damage, bare knuckle fights back in the day would have never advanced upon anything. They would have stopped from by the time the first people had a fist fight and they came out of it with no fucking jawbone left. So if you've been sat here and thinking, well, what he's been saying sounds alright, it doesn't seem that absurd, and when I was watching it, it's not the worst one of these I've ever seen, well, here's something to prove he's an absolute fucking charlatan. He's going to show you something that could be fatal, and this is just an offhand comment in one of his other videos. He does a little technique and says, which, by the way, could be fatal. And let's have a little look-see at this deadly technique.
So from here, okay, we'll do it from, let's do it from a grab first. So we'll do either single arm grab or double arm grab, doesn't really matter from here. We'll do, in fact, if it's double arm grab, we'll do it with the 2 iron needles into here. So it comes in, so the grabbing, okay, they may be in a clinch, trying to like rag you around like a Thai boxing sort of style. From here, you're going to come in, up into here. Notice it causes the body to go back. So you're hitting, yep, if you notice both of the feet, both of Craig's feet lifted off the floor, see both iron needles in, yep, makes them move back, lines them up perfectly for the Hoi Yin shot, okay, which again can be fatal.
For the Hoi Yin shots.
A kick to the inside of someone's leg while you're in a collar tie, a double collar tie. Fatal. Ernesto Hoos blasting people in the inside of the leg over and over and over again for 15 minutes straight. Never killed anyone. This guy, this slightly out of shape guy with Japanese characters on his fucking gi, that'll kill ya. Just a little tap. I have nothing else to say. I wanted to put some, I don't know, some random slightly funny shit involving me hitting a punch bag, but I haven't got it up yet. So, yeah, that's the end of this. godforsaken video. If you like it, donate to my OnlyFans, subscribe to my Patreon, fuck my wife, I don't know.